So hello and a very warm welcome to you on the platform of Blade Runner K12. This video is for English medium student. We have already made a video on how to write a good answer in bilingual. PPT was in English, the answers were written in English and the explanation was both in English and Hindi. This video is completely in English for the students, those who are from South India and from English medium background, especially for Devika. Devika, you were constantly asking us, ki sir, when will the video in English medium come? Will be uploaded. So here is the first video only for you, only exclusively this was made for you. Because you are the only English medium student who was constantly asking us in the comment box and in the chat box of the YouTube videos. So in this video, what we'll talk about, we have already made a video on how can we improve the answer writing skill. I have discussed about one thing that you will need while writing a good answer. That is reading habit. You need to have a habit of reading regularly. I have also mentioned there are 5 books that you should read if you are a class 12th student, if you are of 18 or 17 years old. Check that video, the link will be appearing on the I button. In this video, what we are going to discuss is how can we approach the 3 markers question, the 4 markers question, the 5 markers question, the 6 marker questions. In the cbse, there is a column of 8 markers question. So we will make a separate video on how to write 8 marker question because that need a special attention a bit. So we'll discuss here all the kind of subjective question that can be asked in the examination, that can be asked in any board examination, and how can we approach them ideally. So here come on the laptop screen. If you are watching it for the first time, if you are new to the channel, then make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And if you find the content worth sharing, if you are from English medium background, if you are from South India, then make sure that you share the video amongst your peers and classmates. Here we come on the laptop screen. So this is our laptop screen. We usually see in the boards, there are 3 types of subjective questions that are asked there. First, intro, body, conclusion type questions. The difference based question where you have to write the difference between complementary goods, substitute goods, final goods and intermediate goods, domestic income and national income, domestic territory and normal resident, whatever it can be. And the third is evaluation based question. Evaluation based question is of 2 kinds. One where you have to just evaluate any topic, like the question will be evaluate the impacts of Quit India movement. And second category of evaluation based question is critically evaluate. I will say critically evaluate Raith water system and its impact in the Western India or the Dakhan Peninsula. Both of them are different. To evaluate a topic and to critically evaluate a topic, we need to have a different skill set, we need to have a different approach. So we will discuss all this in very detail. Have patience and make sure that you watch the video till the end so that you cannot miss any detail while framing the good answers. So we'll start with the intro, body, conclusion type questions. Usually they can be in the range of 3 marks to 8 marks, 3 marks to 8 marks. So here we will see all those questions which are between 3 to 6 marks because we will have a separate video on 8 markers as I have already decided. So here we have the first question which is of 3 marks and you can see the question here. Let me change the ink for you first. There are limits, and this question was asked in the 2020 paper of cbse set 5. There are limits to what epigraphy can reveal. Epigraphy is not perfect. There are some limitations associated with it. You have to justify those limitations with suitable arguments. Means you have to just put the limitations which are associated with epigraphy. Now, 2 types of approach can be to answer this question. One is explanatory approach. We have to explain all the things. Okay, this can be done in paras. But while writing answer, either in a board exam or even in a competitive exam, you will ask any aspirant, they will say that instead of writing it in paragraph, instead of writing it in explanation, you have to choose writing it in bullet points. Okay, because bullet points are very easy to focus on and very easy for the examiner to check. While writing the subjective paper, the first thing that an aspirant should do is to play with the psychology of examiner. Examiner is here to just take the copy. He or she does not want to spend much time in your copy. So make your work as simple as convenient you can. So answering this question in the intro, body, conclusion type answer will be the first step to make their work as convenient as you can. So for the intro, body, conclusion type questions, we have to first write an intro. So intro of epigraphy can be, we will explain what do we mean by epigraphy. Epigraphy refers to the study and interpretation of ancient descriptions. We read the descriptions, we decipher the scripts and we interpret them. We tell them that what does these inscriptions mean. Okay, and what do they help in? So they help us in configuring the history and the past. but there are some limitations associated with it, and one way can be to just write down 3 limitations. But what we have done here, we have categorized the limitations into 2 subheads, that are technical limitation and fundamental limitation. These things are noticed by the examiner. Okay, this thing is slightly different from other examinees, so try to be as different as you can, because the difference will fetch you more marks. So here we have categorized the limitations into 2 subhead. First is technical limitation, second is fundamental limitation. Here, since the question is of 3 marks, then we will write 2 points in technical limitation and 1 point in fundamental limitation. Technical limitation, the first point is that the letters in inscriptions can be faintly engraved, and that make the inscription vague, that make the inscription difficult to reconstruct. And the second point is, it is also possible that some inscription might be damaged, some letters might be missing, that make our work so difficult. The inscriptions can be uncertain and confusing. Both the points are different, because first is faintly engraved, it is carved out there, but it cannot be seen properly. And second is the inscription is damaged, letters are missing, we cannot figure out what was written in it. So these two are technical limitation. Fundamental limitation, this is more depth in it, and so this has more depth in it. Fundamental limitation, what can be the fundamental limitation? Most inscription records focus more on grand events and records of things which are associated with nobility and royalty. When we talk about inscriptions of Ashoka, of Vijayanagara Empire, Krishnadev Rai, Nayakas, in each and every inscription, whichever we see, either of Vijayanagara Empire or Ashokan inscriptions, we see that the events that are mentioned in the inscriptions are associated with either nobility or with royalty. There was a clear apparent ignorance of perspective of ordinary people. There is no event which shows the perspective that how this impacted the trading class, how this impacted the craftsmen, how this impacted the peasantries, how this impacted the women, how this impacted untouchables. So in that way, this can also be a limitation. This is the fundamental limitation. Okay, so if this question is of 3 marks, then we'll have to write 2 points in technical limitation, 1 point in fundamental limitation. And then what the best thing that you can do, first write an intro, what the format should be, what the ideal format should be of writing 3 mark question or any question which is more than 3 marks. Write a good intro, okay. Then second, arrange the bullet points into subhead. If you can arrange the bullet points into subhead, like here we could have easily written down the points one by one after one, but we have arranged it into the subhead for the convenience of examiner. And this thing you will gain after a lot of practice. This needs a practice. This thing you cannot memorize or you cannot directly learn from. This thing is all about practice. Then after subhead, when you write the bullet points, if you have any evidence, please mention it, because evidences make your answer more certain, and it shows that you have depth in your knowledge, and this impresses, by the way, examiner so much. So here in this answer, what we have done, we have written a bullet point and given an example. This example is the evidence. In the Ashokan description, we have not seen any mention of traders, of craftsmen, of peasantry, of women, or any untouchables. So this is the evidence that you can give to strengthen your points that you're mentioning. And lastly, you have to conclude your answer. So conclusion can be, inscriptions are a good source to learn history, inscriptions are a good source to reconstruct the history, but we cannot solely rely on that, because this has some limitations associated with it. That is why historians depend upon different other variety of sources, like it can be texts, it can be artifacts, it can be any other thing to configure the history well, because this is not the thing to solely depend upon. So in that way, we can write the answers which are of 3 marks. And for the questions which are of 4 marks or which are of 5 marks or which are of even 6 marks, how we can write the intro, body, conclusion, answer, we have the second slide. Here in the second slide, we have a question that is of 4 marks. Similar question can be asked for 5 marks or even for 6 marks. Then what should our approach be? First, write the intro. First, let me read the question for you. Examine the participation of Talukdars of Awadh in the revolt of 1857. You have to examine the participation of Talukdars of Awadh. What was the role that was played by Talukdars? What made them to participate in the revolt of 1857? So we will start with intro. We will start with the intro. This is the mechanism involved in intro, body, conclusion. First, start with intro. Okay, a good intro of Talukdar can be, who were Talukdars? What do we mean by Talukdar? Let me change the ink for you first. So Talukdars refers to person who held taluk. Or what do we mean by taluk? Taluk is a piece of land. Okay. And add that who granted them the taluk. So imperial authorities granted them the taluk. Talukdars played a very crucial role in Awadh And to understand about their participation in Awadh, we have to discuss 3 points. Here we have arranged our bullet points under 3 subheadings: background of Talukdari in Awadh, summary settlement of 1857, Talukdar's response to new revenue policy. We could have arranged all the bullet points one after another, like 2 points here, 3 points here, 3 points here, 3, 3, 6 to 8, 8 points one after another. But what we have done here, we have arranged it under subheading. First subheading, 2 bullet points; second subheading, 3 bullet points; third subheading, 3 bullet points. This is what we can say is making the work of examiner very convenient, very simple, and the less amount of time he or she will spend on your copy, the more is probability for you to gain the marks. So, first subheading, background of Talukdari. Never we will discuss what how the Talukdari was in pre-British era. So we will discuss all the grandiose, all the extravaganza that Talukdars held forts in those era. Talukdars were liable to maintain the armed platoons. They were responsible for collecting revenues, so they had powers. And if the question had the question been of 6 marks or 5 marks, we could have added more one more point in this background of Talukdari subheading, that Talukdars, the cavalry of Talukdars ranged between 12,000 horses to 200 horses. That maximum we have seen some of the Talukdars hold 12,000 cavalries, 12,000 amount of cavalries under them, and the small Talukdars held 200 cavalries beneath them. And the second subheading, summary settlement. This was all the background. Who were Talukdar and what was their position in pre-British era? Now come to the summary settlement of 1856. This was a reason why the Talukdars participated in movement. So summary settlement will start with the introduction. What was the Britishers' perspective towards Talukdar? So Britishers believed that Talukdars were interlopers and they had gained the access of land through fraud and force. They had forced the peasants. They had done forgery with them to gain the access of land, and Britishers assumed that for the pathetic condition of peasants, Talukdars are responsible. Talukdars are responsible for the pathetic condition of peasants. That was the perception of Britishers. That's why they decided that we have to implement this revenue settlement, in which what we will do, we will revoke all the land access from Talukdars. That no land now will be under the Talukdars. So under the summary settlement, and you can add the date. Dates make the answer more certain. It shows that you have depth. So in the summary settlement of 1856, Britishers revoked the access of land from Talukdars. They said that you cannot have access to land anymore. And now we are backing this point with the evidence. So third bullet point is of evidence. This shows that in the pre-British era, the almost 67% of the Awadh villages were under the Talukdars, but that fell down to 38% after the summary settlement was implemented. So this is the evidence which we are giving for the second point which we have written. Okay, and now this evidence will be linked with the next point of next subheading, Talukdar's response to new revenue policy. So see, this point is linked to third point of last subheading and the first point of this subheading. Apart from damages caused by summary settlement, this is damages. Apart from damages caused by summary settlement, that means the lands were revoked by the British authority from the Talukdars. Talukdars were also disarmed. Disarmed means that Talukdars earlier had the right to maintain armed platoons. Britishers said that you do not need to maintain those armed platoons anymore because we are capable in maintaining law and order. You are not responsible for that. So they were disarmed. Their platoons were revoked also, and their forts were deliberately destroyed by the Britishers. Deliberately destroyed. They wanted to make them feel that you are weak. So this is the thing. Apart from summary settlement, two more things happened. Their forts were destroyed, and the platoons that were under them, that was also revoked. They were now disarmed. This made them to participate into revolt of 1857. And what was the consequence? When they participated, many of the Talukdars fought till death with the Nawab of Awadh. And we have also mentioned the name of Nawab of Awadh, that is Begum Hazrat Mahal. Mention the name as much as you can. Like a question can be asked of zamindari system in Bengal, that why the zamindars were failing consecutively. So here you can mention the thing that we have seen the auction of Bardhaman, zamindari in Bardhaman, that the states were in the control of Mehtab Chand. Mehtab Chand is the name of was the name of zamindar whose states were being auctioned. So these names, these stats, and these dates will make your answer more deep for examiner, and they will be, by the way, very impressed with that. And now we will conclude the answer that it can be concluded that Talukdars were important pillar in the mass agitation of Awadh, and they fought with the mixed emotion of self-interest. They had some self-interest because their troops were disarmed, their lands were revoked, and their forts were destroyed, and they also had sense of patriotism. That is why they were fighting with the Nawab of Awadh with the sense of loyalty. Okay, Now you can also do, if the question is more lengthy, then you can make flowcharts. Make flowcharts like, if the question is about features of Mahajanpada, okay, then write the intro of Mahajanpada first, and then let me change the ink for you first. Then make the flowchart. This is features of Mahajanpada. We can write about governance. There are two types of governance, where the republics and monarchy. Governance can be one pillar. Then we can write about army. Many of the Mahajanpadas had paid army, some were dependent on militia. We can write about location. What were the location? So many of the Mahajanpada were located in the Gangetic Plains, some of them were in the northeastern portion, and one was in the southern India. We can also write about the administration, okay, that how the bureaucracy was, how the things were managed. We can also write about the revenue. What was the revenue source? Because Dharma Shastra legitimated the raids. You can raid on your neighboring states in order to gain revenue. Apart from raids, what were the sources of revenue? So these 4 or 5 subheadings can be there, and then we will write all the bullet points under those subheadings. Under the army, under the revenue, what are the sources? Under the governance, you can explain the concept of monarchy, you can explain the concept of republic, you can give the example that which of the Mahajanpadas were Gansang or republic, which of the Mahajanpadas were following the system of monarchy. Administration can be their location. You can explain that some of the Mahajanpadas were in northeastern India or northeastern portion of Indian subcontinent. One was in South India, and most of the Mahajanpadas were located in Indo-Gangetic Plains. So in that way, we can frame a good intro body conclusion. Next portion is of difference based question. In the difference based question, everything is fine, whatever you do is okay, but just add basis. Whenever you write difference between two concepts, and I think will be helpful in economics mainly, because I don't think that in the history or in the pol science the difference based questions are asked that much frequently, but in economics it can be asked for 6 marks, it can be asked for 3 marks, it can be asked for 4 marks also, like final goods, intermediate goods, complementary goods, substitute goods, capital receipt, revenue receipt. So you have to add basis. Like basis can be meaning, what is the difference between final goods and intermediate goods, on the basis of definition, on the basis of uses, that final goods can be used both by firms and households, intermediate goods can be used only by the firms. Estimation in national income. So on the basis of this, we can say that final goods are calculated, final goods are included while estimating national and domestic income also, but intermediate goods are neither considered while calculating national income nor in the calculation of domestic income. Value addition. On the basis of value addition, we can say that final goods are in the final goods no need to add value is there, and in intermediate goods still a lot of value is to be added. Production boundary, so we can say that final goods lies beyond the production boundary, outside the production boundary, because no more value can be added to them, but intermediate goods lies within the production boundary, as much value is still to be added to them. And we can lastly give the examples of both final goods and intermediate goods. So these kind of questions can be asked. Final goods and intermediate goods are mostly asked in either 4 markers or as 6 marker questions, okay. And if there is 3 marker question, there is 4 marker. Whenever you answer the difference based question, try to answer as much point as possible, because you cannot assume that this question can be asked only for 3 marks. It can be asked for 4 marks, but if you have not prepared, if you are not prepared enough points to write it for the 5 marks question, write it for the 6 marker question, then you will suffer later. So I'll suggest when you attempt the difference based question, at least add 5 marks. Even if it is for 3 marks, then also write 5 marks while practicing, because in worst scenario, if it comes in the board and this is for 5 marks, then you will have sufficient point to back your answer. Now the third category of question. So here the thing which we should focus upon is basis, and try to add at least 5 points. At least 5 points. And you can also frame points from out of your own mind. Okay, book is there, the concept is there, and try to frame points out of your own mind. Then evaluation based question. This is more important. Evaluation based questions are not that much frequently asked in boards, but when they are asked, people are generally confusing. They usually try to attempt the other question. If the option is available that they can attempt this question or this question, so they tentatively attempt the other question, because evaluation is not that easy. So for evaluation, you need to figure out what are the demerits and what are the merits. Okay, evaluation means you have to evaluate it. You have to interpret what are the demerits, you have to interpret what are the merits. You have to give some arguments against it also, you have to give some arguments in the favor of it also. If something is good, you have to make more arguments in the favor of it, but it has also some negative aspects, because nothing is perfect in the concept of history or in the concept of economics. So you have to add some negative aspect too, to maintain that balance. If something is good enough, then 70-30 ratio will be fine, or 80-20 ratio will be fine, that you put 4 argument in merit side, advantage side, and 1 or 2 arguments in disadvantage side or in the against of that topic. Then the next is critical evaluation. Critical evaluation, this is more peculiar. Critical evaluation is more peculiar and more confusing. When the question says critically evaluate something, like critically evaluate rate value system, so people usually think that we have to write merits, we have to write demerits, and the answer will be done. But when we talk about critical evaluation, yeah, evaluate something critically, that means the examiner, that means the question is asking that how can you explain the limitations of this concept. So in that thing, you have to focus, you have to emphasize more on demerits or the limitations. So while we are calculating, while we are critically evaluating rate value system, try to figure out as much demerits as you can. Yes, in last, you have to add some positive aspect too. You have to add some positive aspects, that's yes, these are some limitations, these were some arguments which were in the against of rate value system, but there is something that can be worth taking from that. That the rate value system abolished the need for intermediaries. It also proposed a system in which assessment were made. Earlier in the zamindari system, no assessment was made. Yes, assessment was made incorrectly, but at least the system of assessment was there. So these 1, 2, 3 points will be added, can be added in the merit side, because in the evaluation type question, you cannot rely solely on either demerits or merits. You have to balance the thing. Okay, so this thing will improve with the practice. As more you practice this question, so next time when you encounter this evaluation based question, don't skip this. Please don't skip this, attempt this. And if you don't have belief in your answer, please send us on the Telegram and we will check it out. And if you have not joined our Telegram group, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and join the Telegram group, because we are always there to solve any of your doubts, anytime, anywhere. And beside, you will also find there very helpful peers which are always ready to help you. And in addition to that, materials and PDFs are bonus for the group. And you can also be updated with whatever we are working on. So we are working on this answer writing thing very aggressively. We are going to launch many things for the answer writing for the further competitive exams. So have patience, join the Telegram group. If you are not on the Telegram, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you cannot miss any of the notifications. Now here we have learned the nuances involved in the answer writing. Now we have prepared a question sheet for you, in which evaluation based question is also there, difference based question is also there, intro, body, conclusion type question is also there. Write it in the paper, answer each and every question in the paper. And if you are in the Telegram group, send us on Telegram. If you are not in the Telegram, we have pinned the email. Send your answers to us in the email and we will check it out. We will give you the feedbacks that how you can improve the answer, and if you have done really well in your answers, then we will love to appreciate this. Thank you for watching and see you in the Telegram group.